Hello there and welcome back to another review. Today we're going to be having a look at another early Jackie Chan vehicle, and that is Shaolin Wooden Men that I've released here from 88 Films. This is a film when I had it on VHS. I remember it being Shaolin Chamber of Death back in the day, and I remember the quality on that one especially being awful. Like, it was so grainy, it wasn't a good copy, it wasn't not a good transfer of the movie. This one here, this Blu-ray, so much better. It's probably the best the film has ever looked. The colours come through, it's really vibrant, and as I say, the film looks fresh, it's clear, and it's a wonderful transfer on Blu-ray here from 88 Films. And I think the film, it's the best I've ever seen it. As I say, it really does look good. So like with Snake and Crane and Half a Loaf of Kung Fu, this film does have its fans. There's a lot of people that really enjoy Shaolin Wooden Men. A lot of people think it's one of the, like, sort of, it's not necessarily one of the best films from that era, but it's an okay film. You know, it's not bad. And so this film does have its followers, and it does have its fans. And I think that's a strong misconception, like I've said before, where a lot of people think every film that Jackie Chan did from that period, so between 76 79, if it was low way production or low way in charge, then it's a bad film. It's not necessarily true. There are some good films from the low way era. Like I've said in countless reviews for Jackie Chan, I think Spiritual Kung Fu is a great film. I think Dragon Fist is a great film. Snake and Crane is really enjoyable, and Shaolin Wooden Men is up there as well. It is actually quite it's an okay film. Like I mentioned, it's not brilliant by any means. It's no Drunken Master, it's no Snake and Eagle Shadow or anything like that, but it's like I said before, it's got its fans. There are people that actually do really enjoy this movie. This film has actually influenced and inspired quite a lot from Kill Bill, and I must notably remember it for sort of being the template for the Mokujin character in Tekken 3. I don't know if any of you remember playing Tekken 3 back in 98, 99 time in the late 90s. I remember Mokujin being, I remember playing it thinking, oh, that's one of the dummies from Shaolin Wooden Men. So it has, like, sort of inspired certain things, this movie. Although on the back of this film, on the cover, sorry, it does list Lo Wei as the director, which I think is actually incorrect, because I'm pretty sure it was Chen Chi-Hwa. I mean, he's under here as like executive director, but I'm pretty sure he did direct it. And I always got the impression when Jackie Chan was working with Chen Chi-Hwa that he was a lot more relaxed, and I think he felt at ease with Chen Chi-Hwa. And I think that's another misconception, like where it was a low way production, or low way produced it, or it was low way studios, that it was low way directing every single one of them films. That's not true. It was like Chen Chi-Hwa did Half Loaf of Kung Fu with Jackie, he did Snake and Crane with Jackie, and if you look at both of them films, Jackie Chan is very much going down that comedic route. I mean, aside, if you look at that compared to something like To Kill with Intrigue that was done by Lo Wei, two very different types of films. I mean, To Kill with Intrigue is very straight, very dramatic. If you have seen that movie, Half Life Kung Fu, Snake and Crane, a lot more comedic, and you always get the impression like Jackie Chan, like I mentioned, felt at ease, and like the reins were off, the shackles were off, and he was able to sort of totally experiment and enjoy the creative process of the filmmaking a hell of a lot more than he would have done sort of if Lo Wei was there, because I'd imagine it would have been sort of, look, this is my production company, I'm in the director's chair, you basically do what I'm going to tell you to do, this is my movie. And you know, Jackie Chan didn't have much to say, but I think with Chen Chi-Hwa, who I'm pretty sure did direct Shaolin Wooden Men, did allow Jackie to sort of, what do you want to do here? What would be quite good? What do you think would be quite good? And I'll say films like Snake and Crane, Half Life of Kung Fu, and I think this was their first effort together, Shaolin Wooden Men. So made in 1976, and it's one of the early films of Jackie Chan as a lead character, and of course at this point he was still sort of experimenting with different roles and characters and finding his niche, so to speak. So here Jackie Chan actually plays a mute. He doesn't actually say much until towards the end of the movie. This does sort of work in context of the film. I think the idea of Jackie Chan being a mute does work with this movie, but I mean, Jackie was never going to be the moody, arrogant, silent hero type, but he can pull it off. You know, he does have charisma enough that he can pull that role off. But for an early role, I think it was like sort of they tried to just try him in different avenues, and Shaolin Wooden Men, they went for the silent hero type. So the film opens with a very common type of scene that we've come to expect from a kung fu movie all the time, with Jackie's character fighting some monks and showing off some forms and moves. You're in like a dimly lit room with lots of different styles like tiger, dragon, snake, etc. And what's interesting with this in this movie is usually when this would happen, if you look like a Shaw Brothers movie, this is when the credits would be coming up. Anything from Lu Ka Lung, when they're doing the forms at the beginning of the movie, this is when the credits were coming up and produced by and directed by. Here you don't get any of that. It's basically just like a little training, fight scene, so to speak. So Jackie's character, Little Mew, or Dummy as he's known in the dub version, is a student at the Shaolin Temple and not doing all that well. He's kind of looked down upon by his peers. He's not that strong. He's not that talented. He's almost sort of shunned upon. People like, he's not very good at kung fu. He's almost, like I say, ridiculed in a way because he's called dummy. He doesn't speak. He's not very good at one thing or another, and he's just sort of there basically. But obviously he does want to get better, but he's lacking that sort of tenacity and drive that a lot of his peers does have. He's not, let's say, he's not doing all that well, and it starts with him bringing like water up in like these pointed buckets up loads of steps as he's wearing like lead shoes, which is sort of acknowledged in like the Kill Bill movie. And this kind of like carrying water at the up the steps is, that's in so many Shaolin Temple themed movies. Way too many to count. With Shaolin Wood of Men, maybe because it's a Jackie Chan film, it does have that bit of a cult following. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of people are fans of this movie. So as mentioned, Little Mew he's going slower than everyone else, spilling water everywhere. So whilst upset, we have Jackie having like a flashback of this guy in a mask attacking someone, and we learn Jackie is new to the temple, and this lady advises him to keep practicing. Jackie's buckets are not even half full when he gets to the top, and the abbot is like, if you aren't prepared to work, then you can leave. So even the abbot, who should be understanding and patient towards some of his pupils, is sort of like, if you're not going to do the work, you can just leave. So you really do sort of empathise with Little Mew quite early on, and I think that's a full credit to Jackie Chan here in the performance, because you really do get invested in Jackie here, even though there's no dialogue. It's a testament to his acting abilities, even in 1976, how well he does carry the film. So, this was 2 years for Snake. This was, 2 years for Drunken Master. But this film, it's not bad. It's more than okay, this movie. It's not necessarily a bona fide classic, but I think there's a lot to enjoy here, especially from one of Jackie's very, very early leading roles, along with New Fist of Fury as well. Then Jackie is made to chop up wood. Then we have some more flashback here, and these flashbacks are actually quite eerie. It's sort of shot in like a muddy green colour, almost black and white, and with this odd lens being used on the camera, which does make it's a bit disorientating, the flashbacks, but it does make them very unique, and they do stick in your head when the flashbacks are used. So one of the monks there is always drinking, and one of the nicer monks informs Jackie basically come on, don't be so down, we all had to go through this, you're no exception, just hang on in there, you can do it, and wants Jackie to get better. And naturally, of course, Jackie wants him to teach him. Whilst practicing, Jackie sees some monks go into the forbidden area, as it's known, and we see some nice scope on this scene in the movie as well. We see when Jackie is following these monks into this forbidden area, under these rocks next to this waterfall, and it really does look great. It's a wonderful little bit of scope if you do watch this movie. That scene really does give the film a bit more expansion in terms of just, like I say, cinematography and just the way it looks, and it's a nice little thing that just adds to this. Very, again, like with many things I mentioned, it is literally blink and you miss it, but it just adds a little scope to the film and what you're looking at. Jackie finds they have this prisoner down there, and his character befriends him and helps him eat some bread, and they form a somewhat of an unlikely bond. So all the pupils are sleeping one night, and they all get woken up because some guy is going to challenge the Wooden Men. Now, why he's challenging the Wooden Men in the middle of the night, I have no idea. For all we know as an audience, it's about 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and this guy's deciding to challenge the Wooden Men then. I have no idea. But anyway, they're all asleep, and they all get woken up that once one of them is going to change the Wooden Men, which is the Wooden Men is basically a long corridor of people in these wooden outfits just moving up their legs and arms back and forth. That's all it is. It reminds me very much of films like I've reviewed previously, like 18 Bronzeman. It's that kind of thing going on here, where it is a bit silly, but it's the gimmick of the film. It's sort of the main selling point of the film, even though the Wooden Men are not in it that much, which I will get to in a little bit. But yeah, there's basically just people in these sort of suits moving their legs back and forth. And this guy gets absolutely annihilated, right? This guy who goes to challenge the wooden men, he gets absolutely bruised black and blue. He does not do well at all. Jackie, we learn, is saving some of his food and stealing wine in order so he can feed the prisoner. And the prisoner is practicing a new technique called the Lion's Roar and says he can help Jackie beat the wooden men. At one point, he's like, bring some wine, I will teach you, and if you don't, I will tear your head off. So, I mean, that's a bit of an ultimatum. You know, so I'd make do, you know, get on it and get him some wine, because you really don't want your head torn off. So, quite a choice. Jackie gets caught stealing the wine, is made relatively... He's made to clean the kitchen as punishment, and Jackie the whole time not just playing you, but he plays it relatively straight the whole time. As I say, in terms of comedy, there's not a lot of comedy in this film. It's very much a straight film with little to no comedic expressions and mannerisms that we've come to expect in sort of the later, obviously Jackie Chan films. So the prisoner's like, right, if they won't teach you, then I will. You know, he's like, if they haven't got no faith in you, I will teach you. But this whole time he's teaching a very extreme, violent variant of Kung Fu, where the aim of the goal is to basically to severely injure and cripple someone. And then this lady's like, maybe I can teach you my technique of gliding snakes. So she gets Jackie practicing like grease, and of course he can't stand, so he's still, as I say, still learning and struggling. The whole idea, she had seen Jackie practicing, wants him to practice a non-aggressive form of Kung Fu. So Jackie's practicing both styles and eventually is ready for the wooden men. The prisoner wants him to find this crippled chemist when he leaves the temple. His new friend says, like, when you get out after fighting the wooden men, find this crippled chemist. So he goes to take on the wooden men, right? He goes to take on the wooden. I'm not sure how much time has passed at this point and why the monks aren't questioning how he got so good. Because he's been sort of training secretly, and the monks are just like, you want to challenge the wooden men, off you go. They don't even question like how he suddenly got so good. So all going well, and he starts to get beaten, but he makes it through the wooden men in the end. And what is odd though, the film is called, this is what I was going to say, the film is called Shaolin Wooden Men, right? So you would expect that to be a big thing of the film. You would think a lot of focus to be on that, but this is the second and final time that you actually see the wooden men in the movie. After this, we never see them again. Once Jackie's challenged them, that's it. Forget the wooden men. They're neither here nor there. Then he has to move like this burning altar with the inside of his arms, much like 18 Bronzeman, like I mentioned in my review of that. So after Jackie passes, it's now that the abbot asks, who taught you? So now he's asking, who taught you? Not before. The abbot asked, did you do anything, and knows the prisoner must have had a reason for teaching him Kung Fu. The abbot informs him about another Kung Fu teacher that he can find on the outside. So he's got to find this other Kung Fu teacher and this other like chemist for the prisoner. So Jackie finds this crippled chemist. Then we go to this inn and look at the thugs here causing trouble. You will notice that one of the hoodlums, Jackie's peking opera buddy Yun Bu. If you look very carefully, one of Yun Bu is actually in this movie. Jackie helps this woman who is being harassed. Nice little sequence here. Nothing too flamboyant, nothing too amazing, but it's a nice little sequence where you do get to see Jackie move. Jackie doing some nice takedowns. It was very early on an example of what was coming the choreography, like we were seeing Snake and the Eagle, Shadow and Drunken Master. So this note Jackie had to give the chemist from the prisoner was about where he wants his gang to meet him, and we learn the prisoner has escaped, though we have no idea how when he was shackled up and chained, but for some reason the prisoner has escaped. We see him leaving the temple. He's managed to get out. So when he gets out, the main villain, his hair. Let's just say he has a piece of carpet on his head. This guy, when he gets out and he's got this wig that he's got on, this hair, I mean, it's so distracting. If you've seen this film, you'll know what I mean. When the prisoner gets out and he's got this hair, oh, it's just, you can't help but just raise an eyebrow at this thing he's got on top of his head. So his plugs plan to capture the girl from the inn, sort of to please their boss. They find her and say they want 500 pieces of gold, but I thought earlier they said they were going to kidnap her or something. The film does like sort of trip over itself a little bit. Jackie agrees to go along to help save her. They've kidnapped this girl. See, at one point they were getting her for the boss, but then they kidnap her and then she's used as like a ransom as well. So I don't know what their main plan was, but anyway. Jackie agrees to go along to help save her and witnesses his former master taking on loads of monks as the monks have tracked him down. I must admit, I do love that idea. I think that's the one thing this film they could have expanded on that, and that could have been a whole kung fu movie in itself, like these monks going on the road to track down this prisoner that they once had. I think that's a wonderful story. Like these monks that are going out, setting forth to like go and bring this guy back. pursuing a renegade to bring him to justice. And Jackie helps him escape, still has no idea sort of like he is a villain and he's a bad dude. His friend informs him that his sister has been taken by the Green Dragon gang. So they stay at this house, and the prisoner ends up killing the whole family, showing Jackie just how unhinged and how mad he is and how like sort of crazy he is. And basically what a psycho this guy is. Chiang is the guy in question whose sister has been taken, who you would recognise from Magnificent Butcher, Snake in the Eagle's Shadow. I think he was in Young Master as well. Sort of the hefty guy, sort of a burly guy. You will remember him as well, but much like Samo. So out of nowhere, she just turns back at home, and it's worth mentioning this film is like 1 hour 20 minutes in at this point. And I say the film doesn't trip over itself, but I think it's sort of like when he gets out of the temple, it comes into this whole sister being kidnapped and sort of this gang. And we have not had many fights in the film, and as I mentioned, we're about 1 hour 20 in, but the film is still entertaining nonetheless. I mean, please don't think I'm excuse me, slagging this film off, but it's like I say, it's an early film. You have to go relatively easy on this film, where it is 1976. So Jackie goes to see the monk the abbot informed him about. So we have a flashback here of these three who apprehend the killer and was a former student of Shaolin. The abbot even blinding himself, at one point. So the abbot goes to train Jackie up so he can sort of aid Shaolin. Not quite sure why this all rests on Jackie's shoulders. The guy even saying to him at one point, basically, it's all up to you to save Shaolin. Not too much pressure then. I'm not sure why it's all down to Jackie, but anyway, it's one of them, you're the only man that can do it. You're the only man that can save Shaolin. This other guy sort of aiding the Shaolin using the same punch that killed Jackie's father, so the killer gives him, basically the whole idea is so the killer gives himself away. The hermit having this book on the ultimate technique that the abbot uses to train Jackie. They have Jackie doing these handstands and press-ups, though they shoot it from the waist down, so we as an audience can't see the full thing. He's doing like these hands, like these press-up things. And we can't see the full thing because they shoot it like just the top half, so we can't see the rest of it, and that's a shame because it'd be nice if they'd done like a wider shot on that. So of course we learn it was the prisoner who killed Jackie's father, Sulung, and Jackie now speaks, saying he was never going to speak until he avenged his father's murder. Well, you haven't actually avenged him yet. You've found the guy, yeah, but you haven't actually avenged him yet. So Jackie fights his former teacher. It's a shame they don't flesh out like who's Jackie's father was, Moral, or the guy from Shaolin who was saying it. It would have been great to have more of a character with these people that were sort of aiding and looking for Jackie's father's killer. I can't stress enough how bad this guy's wig is, though. I mean, it's proper. It really is a proper sight to behold. It's a marvelous piece of hair. It really is. Like with all old school films, not sure why the monks are just standing around in the background where they could easily aid Jackie. But again, remember, it's all down to him. He's the only one who can save Shaolin. They're all just standing there, but I guess they just want to allow him to get vengeance. And I love it when Jackie spins the sword on the bow and he just flings it into the guy's chest. There are little bits here where the choreography really does pop, and it really is fluid and it's fast. But I say, he sort of flings this sword on the bow and it goes straight into a guy's chest. So Jackie beats him and tells him to go back to Shaolin. The killer is no, I had to come in, though he does try to trick Jackie at one point and use his own punch on himself, and that's sort of the end of the movie. Again, with like all reviews, I do sometimes just rush through the movie to give you, I'm trying to give opinions, I'm trying to give plot, I'm trying to just talk through the whole thing, and I'm trying to keep it as quick and as short and as sharp as possible. So he sort of, like I say, he uses his own punch himself, and that's the end of the movie. And Jackie finishes up with Jackie actually getting his hair shaved. I think what works with the film is that if the plot is, the plot is quite a good idea in terms of like the renegade monk, the idea of Jackie wanting to find his father's killer, the notion of our good guy learning kung fu from a bad guy, throwing some wooden men for training and scenes, and what you have is quite, like I say, more than okay Jackie Chan movie. Not a masterpiece by any means, but an enjoyable kung fu drama really is what you would call this. But do not expect non-stop fight scenes. Do not expect non-stop training scenes. It's not that type of movie. As I say, remember, in terms of the whole kung fu cinema, they were still figuring stuff out sort of in 1976. So with Shaolin Wooden Men, you cannot really go too hard on it. But just watch it for a very early role, like leading role from Jackie Chan. Watch it for the Wooden Men. Watch it for this guy's wig, because it's absolutely ridiculous. And just enjoy Shaolin Wooden Men or Shaolin Chamber of Death, depending on how you remember it. So thank you very much indeed for watching. I hope you enjoyed the review, and I'll see you soon.
Don't concentrate on the finger or you will miss all that heavenly glory.